Rose and Violet's magical garden adventure. Rose and Violet were identical twins. They looked the same, talked the same, and even dressed the same. If you ever saw them walking side by side, you'd probably think they were mirrors of each other. But they weren't just twins, they were best friends who did everything together. On their birthday, something exciting happened. Their parents had a special surprise for them. Rose and Violet ran into the house, their hearts pounding with excitement, and saw two big, colorful boxes waiting for them. "I want this one," Rose shouted, reaching for the first box. "No, I want it," Violet said, grabbing the same box. Their mom laughed. "Girls, it doesn't matter. The boxes are the same, just like you two." Rose and Violet giggled, realizing how silly they had been. They each opened their boxes and squealed with delight. Inside was everything they needed to make their very own flower gardens. There were seeds, special soil, tools, and even a how-to-garden book. "I've always wanted a flower garden," Rose said, her eyes twinkling with joy. Violet looked a bit unsure. "I like flowers too, but this looks like a lot of work," she said as she peeked inside her box. The start of the gardens. The next morning, Rose and Violet picked out their garden spots in the backyard. They dug up the grass, loosened the soil, and followed every step in the gardening book. It was hard work, but Rose didn't mind. She loved the idea of watching her garden grow. Violet, on the other hand, got a little tired. "I think I'll watch TV now," she said after giving her seeds a quick splash of water. "Let Mother Nature take care of the rest." But Rose was determined. She asked her dad for help, and together, they built a beautiful stone fence around her garden. "A special garden needs a special fence," Rose said proudly. Each day, Rose spent time caring for her garden. She watered her seeds, checked the soil, and made sure everything was just right. Violet, however, always had something else to do. "I'll check on my garden later," she'd say. A blooming surprise. One morning, Rose ran outside to check her garden and gasped in delight. Tiny green plants were sprouting all over. "My flowers are growing," she shouted, jumping up and down with excitement. Then, she looked over at Violet's garden. There were a few plants, but not nearly as many as in her own garden. Rose felt a little sad for Violet. She knew how much Violet wanted her garden to be just as beautiful. And that's when she got an idea. Without telling her sister, Rose carefully dug up some of her own plants and transplanted them into Violet's garden. "This way, both gardens can grow beautifully," she whispered to herself. Their mom watched from the kitchen window, smiling. She was proud of Rose for helping her sister. Growing together. The next day, Violet came outside and gasped. "Wow! Look at my garden, Rose. I have just as many plants as you now." Rose smiled, feeling happy inside. "Yes, our gardens are growing together." From that day on, Violet started taking care of her garden every morning, just like Rose. Together, they watered, weeded, and tended to their plants, following every step in the gardening book. They even found some earthworms to keep the soil nice and loose, just like the book suggested. A beautiful bloom. Weeks passed, and the girls' gardens flourished. One morning, as they ran outside to check on their flowers, they couldn't believe their eyes. Both gardens were in full bloom. There were flowers of every color imaginable: reds, yellows, purples, and blues. It was like a rainbow had landed in their backyard. Rose and Violet held hands and danced around in circles, laughing with pure joy. "Our gardens are so beautiful," they shouted together. They ran back inside, bursting with excitement.
"Mom, Dad,
"Come see our gardens. They're so beautiful." Their parents followed them outside, and their eyes widened in awe. "You girls have done an amazing job," their dad said, admiring the vibrant flowers. "These are the healthiest, most colorful gardens I've ever seen." A new surprise. Just when Rose and Violet thought the day couldn't get any better, their mom smiled and said, "We have another surprise for you. You're going to have a baby brother soon." The girls froze. A baby brother? They had always been the perfect pair, just the two of them. How could they share their parents' love with someone else? "I don't want you to love me less," Rose said quietly. "Me neither," Violet added, her voice trembling. Their parents knelt down and gave them each a big hug. "We could never love you less," Their dad said gently. Love is magical. It doesn't get smaller when you share it, it grows bigger. Rose thought for a moment. Kind of like how I share my plants with Violet, but I still loved my garden just as much. Their mom smiled. Exactly. Love is like your flowers, it grows and spreads, and the more you give, the more you have. Violet looked at her sister and nodded. I guess having a baby brother might not be so bad after all. Rose grinned. Yeah, we'll have someone new to share our love with, just like our flowers. Together, they went back to their gardens, their hearts full of love and excitement for the new addition to their family.